if you have 4 terms in your expression, then you need factoring by grouping. And this is the idea of factoring by grouping. In this case, we've got a 5x plus 7 here, which actually gives us this mental picture of x times a bracket plus 17 times a bracket. So then b itself becomes a common factor, leaving x plus 17 in this bracket. But because b represents 5x plus 7, then this is my final factoring. Doing this, the assumption is that you've already done any common factors. So here we've got xy, the common factor of our first 2 terms. If it gets a really complicated question, this should give you a hint. If you've got an x plus 1 here, you need an x plus 1 here as well. So sometimes that helps you of how to identify the common factor. So here, there's our mental picture, xy times the bracket plus 2 times the bracket. So the bracket becomes a common factor, but replace the bracket by the original x plus 1, and there's the answer. Now here, again, look at your first 2 terms. Our common factor is 3x squared, common factor of 2 here. So there's our mental picture. Now at some point, you don't need to do this red. If it helps you to think it, do it. But really, this is just what you should be thinking about as you do it. So there's my final answer. Now in this case, you should recognize that these first 2 terms here are actually a difference of 2 squares. So that becomes my first factorization. Now I've got the x plus 3 here and the x plus 3 there. So there's my mental picture. So the b becomes the x plus 3, leaving the x minus 3 from there and the 5x squared from there. But now I need to open this internal bracket, and there's my final answer. What we've done so far is called factoring 2 by 2. In other cases, when you look at this, you might be confused about the y squared because it's got nothing to do with these. What you should recognize though is that this is a trinomial square. So when I factor that, now I've got a difference of 2 squares, which gives me another factorization, which becomes that. Then I open the internal brackets, and there's my final answer. Now here, it's the n squared that has nothing to do with this. So this is going to be my trinomial square. So the first thing is that I need to group that. Then turn it into the trinomial square. Now I've got my difference of 2 squares, so that becomes my first factorization. Open up the internal brackets, and there's my final answer. This is about as hard as it gets. But what should help you is that the PT here tells you that the factorization, the trinomial square, has got to do with the p and t terms. So the r squared isn't part of my trinomial square. So I need to regroup them. Now I've got my trinomial square here. Now I've got the difference of 2 squares. So there's my factorization.